Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Watier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Watier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's listener Q&A conversation. Yes. So we get dozens and dozens and dozens of questions submitted. So if we didn't get to yours, it's not intentional, or if we didn't reply. But we took some of the ones that we always feel kind of apply to the majority after having tens of thousands of conversations over the years and damn near 4 million downloads. We've had a lot of back and forth with you guys, the listeners. So we're excited to bring you some of those questions and our take on how to apply fasting into your day-to-day life. So if you are new to the podcast, welcome in. Thank you for giving us a shot. And hopefully we'll become part of your fasting, weight loss, and health journey. If you want to learn more about Tommy and I and why we do what we do, why we have Fasting for Life and all of our resources and coaching and challenges, fasting really transformed our lives. So head back to episode 0, give it a listen. You'll hear our story, short and sweet. It's about 30 minutes long. And it'll give you some insight into how fasting transformed our lives and why we do what we do. If you are a long-term listener, we are grateful for you to continue to follow the show, subscribe, like, rate, review, download, whatever all the little buttons you have to click these days because they just keep changing it. And we're more importantly grateful for the reviews that you've given us, thousands of reviews over the years. So we want to give a shout out to a recent review that just came in on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2025, Tommy.
Yeah, hopefully it's not an April Fool's though, because it's a good one. It's a 5-star. So Thank you, Randall. Yeah. Thanks, Randall Alvey. He said, this is a great podcast on fasting from a couple of guys that are excited about what they're talking about and take the time to do their homework. Very informative, very encouraging. Keep it going. Absolutely. Thank you, Randall. Thank you for the shout out. And thanks for listening. I'm glad to hear that some things are resonating with you, because resonation tends to lead to motivation, tends to lead to some action taking. And then that's where we see some new results. So keep up the good work and keep taking action, Randall.
Yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it. We do love what we do. If you've heard us long enough, you say if you're new to fasting, there's 2 rules of fasting. Don't talk about fasting and don't talk about fasting. Or if you're going to a reunion or a wedding and you haven't seen the family in a while, don't talk about fasting, even if you're a seasoned vet, because you'll get the looks and the stares and the questions. And
even if it's going great, or maybe especially if it's going great, right?
Yeah. You'll get the huh? Wait, what? So, but with that, we are excited about it. We do break the rule of our rule. We talk about fasting 24/7. It's integrated into my life with my wife and my kids and my family. Tommy, the same for you, friends and family. The golf group we have, the church group we have, I'm the guy. So when somebody's doing a 72-hour fast, I get a text. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, I'm feeling this way. So we break the rules of fasting 24/7. And ultimately, you're listening to a fasting podcast, so you're in the right place. And excited to go through some of these questions today, Tommy. So let's start with a question that was submitted from one of our recent challengers. And this is the dreaded plateau conversation, or the scale is not moving conversation. So shout out to Molly. She said, my weight's not budged since Sunday. However, I have completed a 40-hour, 28-hour, and I'm in the 11th hour of a planned 22-hour fast. So I love the intention and attention to detail there. Clean fasting. Between fasts, I've eaten one meal consisting of very high protein, which is great because the new research shows that a meal of 90 to 100 up to 120 grams of protein actually increases muscle protein synthesis. So you don't have to be so strict with that old mindset of getting small protein meals throughout the day. So it adopts to the fasting lifestyle really great. So I love that she put that in there. I've maintained great hydration with elements and electrolytes. We have an electrolyte question we're going to go into in just a minute as well that was submitted. My keto mojo readings are putting me in a high therapeutic level of ketosis.
Ooh.
I've only been walking and I feel great. So all of these wins are happening, yet the doubt is I'm stuck for a few days.
Sure, because the scale hasn't budged, right?
Yeah, if you're listening out there, if you're driving, don't take your hands off the wheel, but a little head nod or a heck yeah or a hashtag relate, as we like to say.
Yeah.
So the challenge has been great. Thank you for the feedback. And my glucose levels are finally in check. Whoa.
Wow.
Now we're moving the needle. With that being said, any insight or just be patient? I'm not frustrated, and maybe this is another reason to stay off the scale. Well, Molly, you kind of gave away the punchline.
Right.
But
you kind of hit the nail on the head
here too, right, Tommy?
Yeah, there absolutely is. But sometimes there are things that have to happen before the scale can continue to move. And so sometimes they're just like the weight didn't come on in a very predictable linear progression. It also doesn't necessarily come off in that way, in the predictable way that you'd like sometimes. And there are things going on under the surface. There's rebalancing that has to take place. There's clearing out of glycogen stores. There's adapting and adopting metabolic efficiency and flexibility that you may not have had in the past. You're getting into higher therapeutic levels of ketosis. So that's an interesting thing to note too, because that's not necessarily optimal for weight loss, but at the same time, if your body is getting into more therapeutic levels of ketosis, then there may be some cellular healing and autophagy that actually is taking place. And that's the focus of your physiological symptoms right now, not necessarily fat burning. So that's actually less efficient for fat burning, but that's not to say that it's not more important at this time. And sometimes your body's going to choose what it's going to be working on, and you don't necessarily get a say all the time. So if you're doing things and you have a lot of things that are confirming you're moving in the right direction, improvements are happening, but it's not necessarily confirmed by the scale, that's okay. We consider the scale a drastically lagging measure anyway, and definitely not living and dying or taking all of our confirmation for if we're making the right choices based on what the scale's doing.
So two things here really stand out. One is the high level of therapeutic level of ketosis, right? If you're not familiar with ketones, we've got two forms of energy production in the body. You've got glucose and or glycogen, which is the stored short-term energy form of glucose. And then you have ketones, right? So in a high level of therapeutic level of ketosis, high level of ketones, that's not optimal for weight loss or seeing change on the scale, which can be frustrating. However, from a metabolic standpoint, it's a very healing environment. And when the big takeaway here is that glucose levels are finally in check. To have sustainable health changes, weight loss changes, disease prevention, disease reversal, etc., cortisol, blood sugar, and insulin need to all be in non-volatile environments. We want them to be. We're not, blood sugar swings are normal, but we want them to be in those healthy ranges because then that leads to the long-term health outcomes. So that's the big takeaway for me here is your blood sugar levels are finally in check. Don't stop, because that's much more of an important metric to me. Yes, you're in high levels of ketosis, so that's not a great environment for the scale to move. But the blood sugar levels, that's a really great metabolic, kind of the iceberg analogy. That's a beneath the surface thing that's telling you that you're doing a lot right. So put the scale in its place for now, right? Don't let the little piece of plastic, glass, and metal that has batteries in it, right, deter you from the long-term goal. And know that you're making metabolic changes, which will ultimately lead to long-term results. This also reminds me, Tommy, of the scenario where the scale might stop, but the pant sizes are dropping.
Right.
Now we're making we're making body composition changes, right? That's fat. That's true fat loss, not the volatility in the water retention and the glycogen stores from day to day because water's heavy, or maybe you haven't used the bathroom yet and you had a big meal the night before when you broke your OMAD fast. So it's a similar scenario where all signs are pointing towards yes. So just keep going. Like Dory says, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Keep swimming, right?
Yeah. And if you're doing everything right, you're seeing body composition changes, you're feeling good, then don't let the scale deter you. So if you do find that it's hitting your mindset or it's leading to less motivation rather than more because of whatever it's doing or not doing right now, then now would, like Molly suggests here, now would be a great time to just zoom out a little bit, back off. If you're weighing daily, maybe go to every 2 or 3 days, or maybe once a week right now,
Yep.
so that you can kind of keep it in check without it affecting you day to day, because you want to definitely keep doing what you're doing.
And appreciate the question submission, Molly. Just keep going. You're doing great. Let us know
Mm-hmm.
if we can help you in any way. So we had another question come in. This came in on March 31st, and it's James V. And I'll just read the message. It says, I just want to thank you both so much for the great podcast. They're really helping me meet the fasting goals. Last week, I've gone 36 hours water only fast. I played squash against someone I've never, ever beaten before and usually thrashes me. I've been there.
Whoa, that's cool.
To my amazement, I actually beat him, not in squash,
Mhm.
but we played paddle, and that just didn't work out well for me. To my amazement, I actually beat him, and I felt so sharp, light, and focused. It was pleasantly profound. I'd love to hear
Wow.
more about the neuronal benefits of fasting on mental focus.
Mhm.
Thanks again so much. Here in Tamworth, UK.
All right.
You guys rock. So one of our international listeners, which is really cool.
Love that.
And we talk a lot. We did a whole episode dedicated to this when someone had messaged in one of our Q&As. Don't ask me which one, because I don't even know what day it is sometimes, with 3 kids under 8 and multiple businesses and all the stuff going on, life being busy.
Right.
But we talked about, the question came in, hey, I don't have any weight to lose, but what are the other additional benefits of fasting? We're like, wow, 250 episodes in, because it was recent. I believe it was this year, at the end of last year. How have we never talked about that, like, big picture? So this is another great question, because one of the things that we hear often, once you break through that like fasting barrier and you start doing the extended fast, 24-hour plus, 36-hour plus, one of the things we hear is we get this like clarity, brain fog removal, almost like a euphoric, like, how is this happening type feeling, right?
Right. How have I never felt like this before? What is this?
Whoa,
Yeah.
the fog has been lifted.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. And the more layers of insulin resistance that you have, the more weight that you have to lose, or the longer that you've been going without, substantially getting through the water weight and the glycogen, and then starting to tap into those long-term fat stores, the more you've been on one side of that, the more drastic it can feel whenever you finally kind of get going in the opposite direction, in the right direction. You start tapping into some ketones, some fat burning, and then adrenaline starts to come up, which, like some theorize is part of food seeking behavior, which is probably part of the equation too. But like you mentioned, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, we know that those levels start to rise as we get into the plus 30-hour, 40-hour plus fast also.
Yep.
But we don't necessarily have to be fasting for that long to see rises in those as well, especially if you're combining like a low carb or maybe a ketogenic or a higher protein diet along with your consistent fasting. You can absolutely feel the same way. You don't have to go into ultra long fast to feel that way, but that is part of the equation, right?
Yeah, that BDNF is cool because it's a critical protein for neurogenesis and that growth of new neurons, or that synaptic plasticity, or it's new research. Like it's great for stress resistance. So that BDNF improved learning, memory, resilience against neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So we know that diabetes, the plaque model, Alzheimer's, the plaque model of Alzheimer's is old science. And now it's being called in other countries, maybe in the UK actually, type 3 diabetes. So the promotion of BDNF is one of the big neuronal or neurotropic factors that we see. Another one is just a study in 2024 found that IF, intermittent fasting, improved executive function and memory by approximately 20% more than a healthy living diet.
Amazing.
Right? In at-risk individuals, in folks that have cognitive decline issues. So really, really cool, powerful stuff in terms of memory and executive function of the brain.
That's a great example. I'm glad you just pointed to that. Think about this. If you haven't felt what we're talking about right now, then that's a great example of, imagine that improvement and try to think of having that improvement, but without being able to feel a difference. That's hard to imagine, an actual measurable improvement like that without it feeling somehow different. Like you're kind of firing on all cylinders, or maybe thinking a little faster, able to remember words that you're searching for instead of having to search for them. They're kind of just coming to you. More feeling of being in that kind of flow state mentally at times. And I still remember getting into more consistent fasting and finally like feeling like that door had kind of started to open up. And it was weird because it was more like, compare that to being in an insulin fog, into the blood sugar volatility, chasing after the next meal, but not even just those distractions, but actually something different going on because your brain's being fueled differently at that time. And so it's really crazy to like feel those two and the contrast between them. So if you're not sure what I'm kind of describing right now, guess what? There's more to be experienced for
Yep.
sure, and you'll understand it when you feel it. But if you've been consistently fasting for a while and you didn't really feel that difference, that may have been because you didn't have as much insulin resistance or
Yep.
didn't feel as brain foggy,
Yep.
in the past, if that's a technical term.
Right. I think it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a couple others here in terms of neuroprotection and stress resistance. So fasting triggers autophagy, which we know it decreases oxidative stress, removes all the damaged cellular components,
Hmm.
and really prevents that age-related degenerative type category of issues. It also enhances mitochondrial biogenesis through the activation of um, transcription factors in your gene. So it improves neuron bioenergetics and resilience to stress. So in the stress-filled world that we live in, that's a huge benefit. I'm better dad, better husband, better coach when I'm fasting. Like
Right.
to your point of like, I just feel that now. And when I feel the opposite, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to go back there. Like, keep that in the closet, right? Keep those skeletons hidden.
Yeah.
And that goes right into the reduced inflammatory response too. So fasting decreases the pro-inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-A, which again are connected to, I'm going to say this a few times in this section in response to this question, like Alzheimer's disease and multiple sclerosis. So it enhances the neuronal survival and function. Never mind the blood sugar component where it improves insulin sensitivity. So it improves glucose uptake by neurons, improving that metabolic health component. So
Well, so can I pause you for 1 second?
please,
Think about it this way, real quick. The metabolic activity within your brain and your nervous system tissue is you're literally uptaking and using 10 times the energy, the proportional weight of energy from those tissues. You're using 10 times more energy than would be calculated just based on the weight of the tissues in your brain and in your nervous system. So so 2% of body weight, but 20% of energetic needs. So
so
what
what I
that
just heard
means,
is like you're stepping on the gas pedal.
you're stepping on the gas pedal, and your brain and your nervous system tissue actually is poised to benefit the most from any beneficial changes in metabolism and energy utilization and efficiency.
Love it.
Yeah.
And that's why you can see the connections to the things I've said multiple times in terms of neurological degenerative type things. Fasting will help prevent, combined with a keto diet or high therapeutic level of ketosis, you can see some incredible changes, slowed down progression, and even reversal of symptoms in things like MS and Parkinson's, strokes, Alzheimer's disease, epilepsy, etc. So
Hmm.
just a really cool question that no one's ever asked specifically for the neuronal changes. But I love it because we've got the neuroplasticity, the brain fog, the energy, the fatigue, the sleep, the lifestyle stuff, but we also have the beneath the surface neurological things that are happening. So
Yeah. Incredible.
absolutely great question. So thank you for sending that in, James V. Thank you for listening in from the UK. And great question. So we have a couple here, Tommy, that we want to get into. This is a question that came in from Sarah S. This came in April 1st. I've been listening to you guys for a month or so now, and I've been doing OMAD for the last couple weeks. I've made my own
Okay.
electrolyte drink.
So this is one meal a day.
One meal a day, OMAD,
Hmm.
thank you. Been making my own electrolyte drink consisting of 1/2 teaspoon each of cream of tartar, pink salt, and baking soda. Tommy, I know you looked that up and found some other connections, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It seems to be a good, like a pretty popular electrolyte drink, and kind of cortisol drink too, for like adrenal stress and things like that.
for stress response, and also I think we saw it in a couple of blogs for in the keto world as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I've been looking for information about that, but I need to know, does that break my fast? And is that actually a good electrolyte? Any help is much appreciated. So
Mm,
from what we can tell, and what we looked up, like we mentioned, the in the keto world and in the stress response, chronic stress, cortisol type reaction, or environment, if you're chronically stressed, anxiety, those types of things, it's been shown to have a really good balancing effect.
hmm
So baking soda is a powerful, powerful natural thing that can help with so many different things. So the drink in itself looks great. Now, if we want to draw a dividing line of what is a clean fast versus a dirty fast, really for us, we always like to take the component of, is this going to benefit us in the long term to stay consistent with our fasting and adopt the fasting lifestyle while we are ensuring proper hydration, decreasing hunger, breaking through those fuzzy, low fatigue, kind of brain foggy moments when you're extending your fasts. For us, we want to use those as part of a long-term strategy. So if that helps you get more consistent with your fasting initially, then for us, the juice is worth the squeeze in terms of a technicality. I'm doing air quotes, you can't see it.
Right.
In that maybe a little cream of tartar is breaking your fast, right?
Yeah.
We recommend salt and electrolytes for anyone that's fasting, and the research is clear that adding salt or being undersalted increases your risk of cardiovascular events. The low salt recommendations from the RDA, from the recommended daily allowance, that's not a let's put it this way: salt gets blamed for blood pressure issues for what insulin causes. So
hmm
staying consistent with your fasting using a drink like this is, we got an adage here at Fasting for Life: it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right?
Right.
I know that's
Yeah.
so profound, right? Saying ain't here in Texas just feels right. So
Right.
if it's working for you, yeah, it's a good electrolyte. I mean, even if you go to the Element website, the LMNT website, they have a how to
A
make it at
recipe.
home
hmm
recipe. It's a little different from this, but that might also be, and we'll drop the link in the show notes, that also might be something you can try,
For
because
sure.
proper hydration and adding those minerals, trace minerals and salt into your fasting is going to make it that much easier to stay consistent, which will get you to your long-term goal. And we'd rather have you the ability to stay consistent and then adopt the lifestyle rather than using it fasting as kind of an on-off diet type mentality, right?
Yeah, agreed. Anything that you can do to make your fasting habits long term and sustainable and adaptable are going to be very, very beneficial. And so one of those things is to find, so a few interesting ways to get in your electrolytes, your hydration on a consistent basis. So I saw on these recipes, I haven't tried this recipe particularly myself, but a squeeze of lemon or lime juice to kind of increase or enhance the flavor as well was a suggestion. And I like anything that kind of breaks things up, and it kind of gives you a way to enjoy your hydration and your electrolytes in a more interesting kind of way.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. So we had a couple more questions here. So hopefully that is helpful. Sarah S. That question came in April 1st, like I mentioned. So thank you for listening in. And yeah, we hope that answered your question. And hopefully that helps some other folks as well with that decision making process of, hey, am I doing this right? Is this what should I be doing this right?
Right,
Those little
right, right.
voices of doubt that come in when you're adopting something new. So
Yeah, keep doing
great
what you're doing.
stuff. Great stuff. I know I personally love an adrenal cocktail.
hmm
As stress and sleep were two of my drivers of insulin resistance and the metabolic dysfunction and the inability to lose weight consistently, doing it the old way: calorie in, calorie out, eat less, move more. I use an adrenal cocktail and a sleep stack very strategically to make sure that I'm getting quality sleep, managing my stress, ultimately allowing for optimal blood sugar and metabolic function. So great question. We have another one coming in, which I just realized is again from the UK. You guys are we're on a hot streak in the United Kingdom. This comes in from Kerry. This came in April 2nd. So they said, hi, a few questions. I'm from UK, so products may vary obviously, but what can I put in my tea or coffee? Did you say cream? Dun dun dun. I was told putting milk in my coffee breaks the fast. Is this right? So this again kind of builds on where's the line in terms of clean fasting? Now, you can also go one step farther and talk dry fasting versus water fasting. You can talk about bone broth fasting for gut health and gut healing. There's a Dr. David Jockers has a great resource on this. He's big into the bone broth fasting world. So Dr. Fung even says, put a couple of tablespoons of creamer in your coffee if it's going to help you get through the day and stay consistent. Now, again, technically it breaks a fast, just like if you look at the dry fasting community, which is something we don't recommend or really know that much about. I haven't forayed into it at all. But even in dry fasting, there's two subcategories that strict and non-strict. I can't remember the exact terms. What are they called, Tommy? Do you remember?
It was hard and soft.
Hard and soft, right? So in hard dry fasting, you can't touch water, take a shower, brush your teeth. But in soft dry fasting, you're still able to go swimming and shower and do a cold plunge. And I'm like, okay, well, where's the line?
Sure.
So if your coffee is a staple and you ain't giving it up, shout out, neither am I. The research is clear on coffee consumption that it's really great for some folks. We all metabolize it a little bit differently. So there was a time where I had to quit coffee for a while to help reset my stress response and my blood sugar levels. But so if coffee's your thing, right? And for my wife, it's her thing. It ain't ever going anywhere. But now we get, a different, we do it at home and we make it cleaner and it's organic and it's shade grown and all that stuff. I don't want to go down the coffee rabbit hole, even though I kind of already did.
The better your coffee, the easier it is to drink black. I'll say it. I'll say that.
The better
that's
the
for
coffee.
Sure.
Yeah. If you can't drink your coffee black, you need a better coffee. That's a great point. Yep. And I never would have
that's
known
that. That's going to help with your fasting lifestyle for sure.
Correct. So for now, putting a couple tablespoons of cream in your coffee, I mean, go for it if it allows you to stay consistent. So hopefully that clears that point up.
Yeah, I think a good move for me was when I first came into fasting, I had been used to using a little bit of one of the sweetened creams. And so it was like an almond milk one. And it was just a little bit of cane sugar, but it had enough sweetness where if you put in enough, it would definitely kick up my sweet cravings. And so, but after upgrading coffee, I was able to just go to like a half and half and then eventually not need that at all.
Exactly. It's a progression. Yep, for sure. All right. Another question from Kerry from the UK. If I chose dinner, I wouldn't be eating until around 9 p.m. every night. Is this okay as long as I keep it at 9 p.m. every night, or should I choose a different meal to have? As again, I was told it stops you from losing weight if you eat after 7. Does it matter what time the last meal is?
Yes.
It does. So you are up to 30% less insulin sensitive. So the effectiveness of insulin, taking the energy that's broken down from your meal and shuttling it into your cells to be used as energy rather than being shuttled into your liver and or your fat stores. Yes, eating later at night is not ideal from a insulin sensitivity standpoint. Now, that doesn't mean that one meal a day strategy can't work. That's where we started. Our first resource that we ever made was called the Fast Start Guide. 6 simple steps to put intermittent fasting into your day. And 90% of people chose dinner because it's easier with families, with work, whatever. However, so if it's working for you right now, then keep doing it. But we have shifted our mindset on this because the research is clear now. Eating earlier in the day has a better benefit for your insulin response and your insulin sensitivity.
Yep.
So if that's not in the cards for you right now and it's working, stay the course. But yes, I would recommend shifting that meal earlier if you can, and even moving your eating window to midday, late afternoon, early evening if that's possible.
Yeah, you would also have a big net benefit of if you took 2 or 3 or 4 of the days of the week and did something different on those days, either like an early lunch, like whenever the other time that you could have a meal would be to switch it up, or to have some of those days where you just burn through and some of those days you're just tapping into long-term fat source and you just fast through those days. So that means that you're giving yourself the opportunity to regulate blood sugar, regulate insulin levels without just always having that dinner meal, because that dinner meal also affects your sleep, which then is going to increase your insulin resistance and decrease your metabolic efficiency going into the next day as well.
100%. So the last question that came from Carrie, she says, I'm also going through, I had been bedbound for a year and put on about 2 stones. So I think that's 14 pounds.
2 stones?
2 stone. I'm not good with conversions. We do things silly here in the U.S. We should use
28 pounds.
28 pounds. Okay, so it's 14 per stone.
Mm-hmm.
I can't seem to get rid of it. I'm going through menopause. Could that have something to do with not being able to lose weight?
Sure.
So I want to encourage you that in menopause, fasting is a very powerful tool, and it can be done, and it can get great results. There are some things that happen when you transition into menopause in terms of estrogen, where that decrease is going to make it, if you're not pulling the right levers at the right time, it's going to make it more difficult. So you need more protein. You need resistance training. You need, healthy fats for proper hormone production. Because what happens is the adrenal glands take over the production of the sex hormones when the reproductive organs shut down. So about 75% are now made there. So stress and sleep are 2 big components that will drive weight loss resistance, as well as the estrogen changes in menopause. So based on your previous question about eating late, for you, I would absolutely make the recommendation to move that meal earlier in the day before sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is going to help you specifically where you're at on your hormonal journey, make these changes and see those wins quicker, which will ultimately want you to keep you motivated and excited about it. Yeah. But I do want to encourage you that it is absolutely doable. And that meal timing for you, I would definitely make that change.
Yeah, remember there's changes that happen across the perimenopause and into the menopause years that affect your macronutrient needs. The prioritization of protein is big.
Yep. Like protein.
Resistance training is a big one. I mean, you're talking about let's optimize those different levers that you may have been able to like get away with in years past without really paying too much attention to those. And then actual metabolic rate means that you don't necessarily need as many calories each day as you did 10 years ago. And so depending on what your eating habits are like, also emotional relationship with food may also come into play, where just eating the same volume as before might be a caloric excess versus what used to be a caloric deficit or maintenance balance, right? All of these things can come into play.
So to keep it really simple, move your eating time earlier. Definitely make that change. And you don't have to just go right to lunch, but move it a couple hours a week or the next couple of weeks, move it an hour back or an hour, a couple hours back, figure out how you can do it, plan for it, strategize for it. And then absolutely double down on protein. So simplify your plates, right? So simplify your plates. If you want more guidance on exactly what we are, if you're a macro tracker, calorie counter, if you go to the show notes and click the blueprint to fasting for fat loss, there's some macro recommendations where we shoot for 30 to 40% protein, 30 to 40% fat, and then you backfill with the carbs and make sure you're having fiber and all that stuff in there as well. I don't know how you eat in terms of your lifestyle, but those are some basic levers that you can pull that will really make some really cool dramatic changes over the next few weeks. Now, give it a few weeks too. Don't just think you're going to start it tomorrow and then boom, you're going to see the changes. It's like in the gym. Over 90 days, you're going to do it, you're going to feel it, and then in month 3, you're going to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So stay the course.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, right. So stay the course, make those changes. Carrie, thank you for listening in from the UK, and thank you for submitting that question, and we'll make sure that we get you the response in a timely fashion. So Tommy,
cool.
Those are the Q&A submissions that we have for this Q&A episode. Awesome. Appreciate you all listening in. Appreciate the 5-star reviews. If you're looking for more support or resources, head to the show notes, click a link, join a challenge, and we'll be continuing to unpack this fasting lifestyle with you week in and week out on the Fasting for Life podcast. So Tommy, as always, man, I appreciate the conversation. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye. So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com
And sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.